It's the Newport This Week video podcast series. I'm Bill Bartholomew. Remember, you can find every episode at newportthisweek.com and make sure you subscribe to the Newport This Week YouTube channel. You'll find, in addition to this podcast, a lot of other great hyper-local content from Newport This Week. All right, Mayor Charlie Holder joins us look, this is a pivotal conversation that we're having today. It's a complex one, and I think it's a timely one for sure. Mayor, thanks so much for your time, and let's get right into it.
Let's do
Following
it.
the resolution that passed narrowly at the City Council meeting on March 16th regarding educational talks between Newport and Middletown, give us your overall take on the educational path and if it can be improved by Newport and Middletown collaborating together on, at minimum, an administrative level.
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, the opportunity to be here. Um, Obviously, there's multiple factors involved. It's not just the education piece, it's not just the administration piece, and not just the financial piece. It's all three that have to be brought together. It can't be one without the other two, or two without the other one. And that's the kind of the way we're trying to bring these talks right now, just to see if it's even feasible, between both communities.
How do you think these talks between the city of Newport and the town of Middletown are going? Will they result in any different outcomes versus what we've seen really in preceding years and different votes that have taken place?
Yeah, I really hope so. It all goes back to during the campaign, and we had a couple interviews where everyone between the school committee, city council, town councils, everyone was for the regionalization. There wasn't any distinct ideas of how it was going to go. So that's really how these talks kind of got started once again. And I think with the new makeup of the city council in Newport and the school committee, there's more of an appetite for the regionalization process to take place. And I feel from the Middletown side, I can't speak for them, but from what I've gathered, they're in a similar situation.
You were opposed to the resolution that 4-3 resolution on March 12th to establish an academic integration advisory committee. How does that fit into all of this? Your
Yeah,
opposition there.
I thought let me just say, I thought the resolution itself was a really good resolution, and to have a committee set up, I am for that. The reason I opposed it was I thought there could have been more detail involved. First off, in the resolution, it asks for the Newport City Council, Newport School Committee, Middletown Town Council, Middletown School Committee. We don't know what Middletown wants or they're going to do with that. So to ask them in a resolution from Newport to be a part of this, I didn't think was the right way to go about it. But that being said, the second part is to set this committee up. They had a whole laundry list of different people and from different areas, which is all well and good, but there was no definition of who is in charge of putting these people in place. Are there going to be applications? What's the interview process going to be? How long do we expect that to take? So there was a lot of non-answered questions, I think. So to pass that resolution at the time, I know Council Napolitano asked for a continuation, which was shot down. So I just thought it was a little too far forward, kind of getting out over our skis, if you will, to get that resolution going right now. But it passed, so we'll move on and keep working.
We'll get back to that sort of pipeline between Middletown and Newport in just a second, but let's get into the details here. And besides the increase of the reimbursement rate from 50 to nearly 80% from the state, why are these talks necessary in light of the fact that both communities are far into the building process of their own facilities? I mean, we're at a point right now where you is there a state timeline that needs to be met? What factors are all of a sudden, or maybe not all of a sudden, but in this hyper moment? Why is this happening right now? Why the urgency?
I think the biggest reason right now is because of how far we are along in the development process of the buildings. Obviously, Rogers, we expect to have that open for next school year. We need to have our TCO ready for June and open the doors in September. Middletown is still in their developing process. One key part of any type of regionalization, and if we're talking about full regionalization with kids from both communities going to the same schools, we need a high school that's going to be able to hold the amount of kids that we expect to have. And right now, neither Middletown as it stands or Rogers as it will stand will be able to hold those that amount of kids. So if we can get something ahead, a plan put in place, the Middletown plan is to have a high school and junior high school together. We could make that one high school, but there has to be some tweaks to the development of that plan. And then we can have talks about where do the middle schools go, where do the elementary schools go. So that's really the crux upon trying to get this done now, as opposed to what the state timeline is, because it really isn't a state timeline. Once we regionalize at any point, we can start getting some of that money reimbursed.
Here's a pretty basic question for this entire scenario, inclusive of the moment and in general. Has anyone, have you or anybody from, we'll call it an administrative level, be it council, school board, anybody in officialdom, had any significant talks with Middletown to see if they're even interested in this type of collaboration? And if so, who talked to who, when, and what were those talks like?
Yes, I've had talks with Middletown myself. We've had a collaboration, very unofficial. It's really more of, kick the tires kind of thing. I had myself, Gene Napolitano from the city council, Jim Dring from the school committee. We've had our city manager, deputy city manager involved. Middletown has had some of their people involved. And again, it's just very, can we make this work? Is there an appetite from the school committee, city councils, town councils to make this work? Before we get down, too far down the road of what's the educational outcome going to be? Where, how are we going to handle busing? How are we going to handle sports teams? All of those things. The first part is, okay, where are you in your building process? Where are we at in our building process? And then what is the appetite from both sides to make, even to have the talks of bringing it further? Because at some point, if we want to do this, it has to come to a vote of all the voters in Newport and Middletown. So it's not just a decision that I can make or the council or the town council can make from Middletown. It'll come down to the voters again.
Right. This would be a local referenda measure. And what would the required, this may not be a fair question, but you may know what the required measurement of support would be. Is this a majority vote, or is this, something that can go 51-49 and pass?
Yeah, it's up to the voters. If 5,000 voters turn out and it's 2,501 on one side and 2,499 on the other, then it passes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
I
It
thought
would be
so
a
as well.
special election. Yeah.
It would occur in a special election.
And it would have to be, obviously both Newport and Middletown separately would have to vote in the affirmative for that.
Right. That would be the process. Okay. So with that being the case, and you outlined some concerns as um, inclusive of busing, inclusive of sports, inclusive of other programs. You could look at the VOTEC. You could look at a lot of different things to make the argument for why Newport and Middletown should remain separate school departments. Regionalization ought not to occur. And people have, and there are people who are convinced that this is the way that it should be. So what needs to be done to convince those that are opposed to regionalization to flip their opinion and actually make this go through?
I mean, Bill, that's such a great question. I don't think really anyone is opposed to the regionalization as a whole. I think people have their sides on the reason behind we want to regionalize. Some people are on the education side, some people are on the finance side. But I think, as I said earlier, it takes all three groups to get together: education, the finance, and the administration. Without all those three being as one body and one voice, then it won't work. So again, I don't think anyone's really opposed to regionalization. I don't think it's coming out that we don't want to, we don't want Newport to be with Middletown and vice versa. I think everyone knows that going forward, like down the road, this would be the best case scenario for both communities. You look at the number of the students we have in school, it's diminishing. Middletown has the same issues. It comes down to the educational collaboration of this all.
Yeah. And of course, with regionalization would come a requirement for, on a statewide basis, to take a look at districts like Pontiac or take a look at Charahoe, where now you have scenarios where charters are created, not charter schools, charters like the Charahoe Act. That creates all sorts of questions about home rule. There's a lot to this. It's not as simple as just saying Yeah, let's do it. I mean, there's a lot here beyond just the finance education piece. There are governmental, civics level things that have to go into this. So it's a multi-layered onion that you have to peel through in order to get to the outcome here. Mayor Charlie Holder, thanks so much for your time on this. Any other thoughts on as it stands today?
Yeah, again, my pleasure. And, the last thing I just want to leave this is let's work together. Let's listen and come up with solutions as opposed to trying to blame other people and trying to like hold our ground for what we think is right. Let's open this up and have an open mind. And again, this is for the kids for sure, but it's also for the communities and all has to work together for this to happen.
Yeah, regionalization would need to be a seamless integration of education and a financial budgetary picture that, as you said, everyone's going in the same direction. Thanks for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.